Now we're live. Okay, Kate, bye. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to this interview series about what if you are part of the symphony. And today I have a special guest with us, Charlie Verge. Verge, is that how you pronounce it?
Verge.
Verge, of course, much prettier. And and we're just going to dive in and look a little bit about, I would say, like, why are we all part of the symphony and how did we discover that? So when you started to play with the symphony energies, which are these energies that Dane here has developed and that we get to play with in both the ESP classes and also in the symphony classes with Dr. Dane here, and now also with Anthony Mattis, who does opening of the symphony classes. And these energies are very specific and yet totally undefined. So, when you started to come to classes and when you started to get acquainted with these energies, what was that like for you, Charlie?
Wow. Yeah. So the whole idea of Symphony of Possibilities, like that was just such an expansive energy. And the first time I heard that Symphony of Possibilities, I said, yeah, like, right. Like, what if we are the Symphony of Possibilities? Like, so much in this world is teaching us that we are not a possibility, that we are defined, we are confined, we are this, we are that. But how often do we hear that we are a possibility, that
Mm.
who we are is a possibility, and that what we're participating in is an infinite universe of possibilities? So for me, that energy was so appealing and so attractive. I just said, whatever that is, I want.
Well, it's interesting this part about the energy because one of the things that we talk a lot about in classes is that everything is energy. Everything is energy. We are all energy, but everything also that we interact with in the world is energy. And I was reading the other day about, I think it's quantum physics that really talk about that we are slow down energy. We just slow down into the form of us, and we're walking through the world into this like slow down form of energy. And Symphony of Possibilities for me is really how you can start playing with your energy, everybody else's energy, every energies that are surrounding you in the world. And it is so new. It is such a like, it's like we're only at a fingernail of what's possible, maybe a half a fingernail of what is possible with these energies. So when you started to play with these energies, what changed for you? What did you become aware of?
I think the first thing I became aware of, Kat, was being in communion with things in a greater way. And so much of this world teach us to separate, that I'm here and you're there, and there's a tree over there, and the clouds are up there. But we have lost a sense that I think a lot of original cultures had of like being in participation, being in the dance, being in the communion with. And so when I started to like start moving into the symphony of possibilities or the energy of possibilities, I started moving into the communion with things beyond myself, that I wasn't separate, that I was a part of the symphony, that we're all part of the symphony, and that we're all connected in the symphony, we're all in communion with the symphony. And playing with that, and particularly in the classes, the way we play with that, it just allows us to be with in a whole new way. And even with, when you work with somebody on a table or you work with a client another way, just being with them in the symphony of possibilities, if you do
Mm.
nothing more than that, it just opens up doors into such a different universe for me.
Well, and it's been mind blowing this particular year when we started to expand the kinds of classes that we can facilitate with the symphony. So we also started to facilitate intro classes called Introducing the Symphony, and how quickly people get access to what you're like this. energy, it is available instantly for people. They can actually now tap into it really as soon as they start choosing to be in communion or to be asking, I guess, for the Symphony of Possibilities energies. So for me, that's actually a change in the universe in a way of the availability of these energies. So is that something that you've been looking at, how from when you started to learn about the symphony energies and where you are, but also where we all are and where the universe is now? I know that's a huge question. Just see where you want to go with it.
Yeah, probably way above my pay grade.
Definitely above both our pay grades. And that's why we should, explore.
I think the way I sense that is that I'm more available to the energies, and that since we are all in this together, the energies are more available to me as I make myself more available to the energies. And for me,
Mm,
that becomes simple. For me, is that when I am being me, when I'm just being me, when everybody's being themselves, when they're being you, and you move into the lightness of that, you start to become available in a different way because you're not kind of taken down by the
mm,
heavies of this world, by the separations, by the problems, by the conclusions. And so when you start to, and I think one of the beautiful thing about Access tools is that we have so many tools to clear out and to dissipate the heavies, to dissipate those things. And the more we do that, we just become us in a lighter way, in an ease-filled
mm.
way. And in that, we become more available to what else is possible? What are the energies beyond what I've been looking at and paying attention to that are available to us all now? Like, bars, for instance, like when people just come to bars and they get their bars run for the first time, all of a sudden you can get witness how people become more available to something beyond what they were considering before. And they start to enter into that symphony of energies.
It is so true. It's like we become less solidified and then we become more available for the universe. I remember when I started to learn the bars many, many years ago, and I was so in my head. I had really only function. It's like I lived the whole world from my head, from my brain, from my thinking. And when I started to learn the bars, I had no idea if any energy was running. I couldn't feel anything. I didn't know where the points were. I was very insecure. Like I wanted somebody to point to the right point. I often asked somebody to come over and show me exactly where I should put my finger to get it right. You don't want to do it wrong. And it took several months before I could even perceive the energy and could perceive what, not just perceive that there's something there that's so different than anything I had solidified into my reality. And as you say, that's such a good way of putting it. I became so much more available. I became so much more available for the universe, but also for everyone around me. I desolidified all my conclusions. So I get less solid. And there I'm suddenly more interacting, like more in communion with everyone and everything. It's a beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah. And I'm just curious now you started talking about how you began and you were mentally, and so was I, and we wanted
Mm,
definitions. We wanted to be clear about, whether we're doing things right or wrong or
yeah.
whatever now. And now, Kat, you go around the world and you do body classes and you do a lot of symphony and so forth. What's happening for you now? What is happening now? What are you now experiencing that was maybe even more expansive or different than before?
Well, so now I've used these tools for over 15 years. So I would say at this point, I actually, it's to the point where that is more real in a way than the solidity. So I know that when I go to solidity and conclusion and rightness, which I still do, it has a heaviness to it, like you would call a heaviness. And I know that now, okay, now I'm going somewhere where I will be less in communion with everything. Like every time I move there, well, when I'm in a body class and facilitate a body class and notice how body classes are amazing. It's the same thing. Like people come in, they may never have done a body class before. And here are these energetic processes that we literally invite bodies to explore new energies, but also to share the energies that only they are aware of. Like it's an energetic body class. And when people start running the body processes, the peace that shows up in the room, the relaxation, in a split second, that space is there. From the business of the street, they come in, they put their hands on each other, and suddenly we're in a different world in a way. And that world is really what I get is possible. That is the world of that communion that you talk about, the desolidified way we could interact with each other, then the what's created from all the presumptions that we have about the world and all the conclusions that we've come to, and all the things that we decided when we were very young, that makes us cut off from that energy. So I would say now my life is so much more about exploring what is available. And it doesn't exclude, it's not like energies are just energetic. It includes the physical, it includes the body, it includes touch, it includes all of those things, because that is also energetic. It's just within this organism, this sensor organism that we've been given to explore it with. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's really
did. I just love the way you talked about that particularly the inclusive part of us, including everything, because, we say in Access, consciousness includes everything and judges nothing. And that is such a space of lightness when you go into everything not being excluded, but everything being included. And when you go into that space of allowance where everything can just be, and you can just be, and we can all be the possibility we be, just being us, that we're all a contribution to that symphony. It is just so beautiful. It is so light, so desolidified.
And it's interesting too, because again, just as energies is not only non-physical, energies are not always happy. They're not always like, everything is wonderful. Like today I was walking through the forest and I'm looking at something, I'm like exploring a new way of living my life. So I'm there's things changing in my universe, which makes it a little wonky sometimes. And I can perceive that wonkiness. And I would a few years ago have interpreted that as something is wrong. I need to fix this because something is wrong. Because I had come so far that my awareness was clearly, okay, I'm not as light as I usually am. So like the awareness of, okay, something is wonky, something is different. And with this, what you're talking about, including everything, judging nothing, and the symphony of possibilities. The symphony of possibilities means every possibility, whatever color it has energetically. So I was walking through there and I'm like, wow, how grateful am I that this is showing up right now? Something is shifting. I'm moving somewhere. I don't know where I'm moving. I don't know what's going on. I just know something is shifting. What if I could enjoy this? Because this will too change. Like this will also move into some other energy, some other color, or something else. What if I could fully enjoy this energy instead of trying to get out of it, instead of trying to fix it or change it? I could just enjoy it and play that particular frequency, that particular vibration for a while, and explore what that will turn into in the symphony. And that for me has given me so much more relaxation and so much more peace than when I was very busy at trying to fix everything that felt wrong or off or not perfect according to where I thought I was heading. So I think in the symphony, just the word symphony, like it has so many different scents, tastes, sounds, colors, all of that in it. And it won't become a symphony without it. Like we can't do the symphony without the symphony of all of it. So, but I
I
would
love
say
it.
that if we go to that original question of everybody's included in the symphony. So one of the things that I really get is that when we look at the people coming to symphony classes, doing symphony sessions, all kinds of people. There's not a particular kind of person who can do the symphony. Anybody can do the symphony, from lawyers to massage therapists to researchers to like whatever. It has nothing to do with that. And that is also part of that. This is not a specific energy worker or a body worker modality. It is something that's available for all of us if we choose it. And that's another thing that I wanted to ask you about. So, how the world really brings us to the people that we require, like that we require to become something different or changing. So what has it been like for you? How long have you been doing Access, and what has kind of changed over the years for you in how you interact with people around you, from interacting with all the people, exploring the symphony, exploring the bars, exploring the body processes?
Yeah. I first was introduced to Access about 10 years ago, and I took a couple of classes and said, that's not for me. Um, and so I moved into separation first, and then maybe 3 years after that, I said, I think I'll give this stuff Access another try. And bars, for the first time I did bars, it was kind of nice, but it didn't do much for me. And that was my conclusion on it. And then about 3 years later, I did some more bars. And I went, whoa, like I opened up to that space that you're talking about. And
Mm.
so I've been doing Access for about 6, 7 years now, I guess. And I think what has changed for me is, well, it keeps changing. Like in every 10 seconds, it keeps changing. So recently, what has opened up is the inclusivity that you were just talking about in a whole new way. That
Mm.
everything comes to me with ease, joy, and glory, no matter what it looks like.
Mm.
And whether it's sadness, whether it's judgment, whatever it is, and that everything's a contribution. Can I just share one little story here that happened recently? Was that, so in Access, we play a lot with ask and receive. And about a month ago, I was just really asking for what my ask was at this point. Like, what am I asking for now that I've never asked for before? And when I started asking that question, I all of a sudden realized I wanted to ask for a greater voice in the world. So
Mm.
that was my ask. I'm asking for having a greater voice in the world. And right after that, the very next day, somebody emailed me with a whole lot of judgments towards me. And the next day, somebody on a class I was facilitating was judging me in an intense way. And all of a sudden, I'm experiencing all this judgment coming to me that I've never, I mean, we've all been judged in this world, but I'm not a person who gets
Mm.
judged a lot. So this was a little out of the usual. And all these judgments, and they were really hurting my feelings. So I was running the tools. Who does this belong to? And, how's it getting? And all the tools I was running and all the presumptive realities and so forth. And it wasn't moving until I asked the question, what is right about this that I'm
Mm.
not getting? Like you said, what if what if we can just be present with it? And when I shifted to that, I realized that this was the answer to my ask. This was coming in a wholly different way. That if I wanted to have a greater voice in the world, I would have to expand and receive judgment
Yeah.
easily and beautifully and gracefully and expansively. And even though it's not fun, but to be in the space of ease with it. And that has changed so much to see everything coming to me in the symphony as a contribution. All the energies coming are a contribution.
No, and it's so brilliant because consciousness really isn't for wimps. Like if you really want to explore consciousness and you want to explore the symphony of possibilities, which is an energetic consciousness moving through the world, you have to be willing to actually explore what it takes. And judgment, yeah, a greater voice in the world. Are you willing to get judged? Are you willing to receive that judgment? I mean, that
Exactly.
is such a good example of that. Like, yeah, what is right about this that we're not getting? And I think that's where it's that particular energy, when you're actually willing to be brutally honest with yourself, because it's really always about ourselves, right? We're the one doing the journey. We're the one moving forward, and you're willing to receive everything and really be present with it. That's when it starts getting really excited. If you're only looking to feel better, it will get boring quite quickly because you'll stop. Like, you won't continue to move. So I think the Symphony of Possibilities is also, it is something for when you are truly curious of what else is possible. Like, when you have that curiosity that will keep you going and exploring whatever comes up.
So true. I mean, I think when I started playing with access tools, I was really trying to make my life just better,
Mm,
and I think I was just trying to make myself more right.
yeah. No, only you. I've never done that.
I'm sure none of us have, right?
No.
And now it really is different. Now I'm really excited about the possibility of expanding past that and expanding into what if I can receive everything as an exciting contribution to
Yeah.
my journey, to my life, to my
Mm.
living.
No, and that's such a gift too, because that you, in a way, I'd say my life is so incredibly much better than it's ever been, ever before. Like, I cannot even imagine not having the tools as part of my life. And and one of the key parts is being willing to be, like you say, having everything come to me with ease, joy, and glory, whatever it is. It makes everything in life welcome instead of you having to resist and react or align and agree with everything that comes up. So it's a whole different way of moving through the world. And I think that's also what the Symphony of Possibilities are inviting people to, energetically, not necessarily always through the words or trying to explain it or trying to give them the right perspective. It's an energetic invite, which is also why it becomes, I would say, so immediate sometimes, because you cannot avoid energy. It's just there. You can choose not to receive it, but it is there. So that's wonderful. I think, well, it went really quickly, our time. Is there anything else you would like to add? Like, what would you say to somebody who is considering coming to maybe an introducing the symphony class somewhere in the world? And these evening classes, they are all over the world. And the only thing required for you to come and try the symphony energies is that you've taken a foundation class. And then you can come in and just for an evening play with these energies that we've been talking about. So, but if you would say to somebody, if they're considering coming, what would you say, Charlie?
I'd start by asking them to ask,
Hmm.
what if I am the possibility this world is seeking? And what if playing with these energies opens the door for me to be more me? Whatever that is. Like,
Yeah.
just what if you could just discover who you be without all the definitions, the problems, the conclusions, etc. And what if you could play with you being a possibility beyond all that? And what could you be? What would you be? Who would you be if you opened up to that? And come play. Come play.
Yes. Come and play. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you
And
for inviting me.
bye, everyone. Thank you.